The U.S. men's national team is going to make the return to the field in World Cup qualifying this Sunday against Canada in Nashville. So the boys are back at home following that disappointment in the previous game against El Salvador, where the boys left with only a 0-0 draw. And Ryan, where do you think this team is at? Like, how do you think they're going to respond in this game, given the disappointment in the previous one?
It's going to be an interesting one because it's obviously going to be a more difficult game, and we didn't perform well in our first game. Before the international break, Tyler Adams came out saying that he wants 9 points out of 9. That's not possible now. So we're going to need a quick change in mindset from these guys if, they really want to recover from that 0-0 draw. I mean, it's going to we know this team as a group of guys who are capable of bouncing back, who are capable of getting the job done. Maybe it's premature to assume that of them. I mean, we haven't seen them together for too long yet, but I'm willing to bet that these guys are ready to take things seriously. So I'm honestly expecting things to be a little bit more positive, especially against a better opponent. I think a lot of the guys against El Salvador just weren't ready for that kind of game. But I think come Canada, I think they'll be more equipped to deal with the challenge.
Absolutely. And this team's got now a kick up their butt. They got a little bit of a wake-up call. Maybe they went into that game a little bit cocky, being like, hey, we won the last 2 tournaments. We're the top dogs. And in CONCACAF, you can't not bring your A game, because if you don't, you're going to get absolutely bullied. And at times in that El Salvador game, they were the more physical team. They had a hostile atmosphere, and they grinded out a result for them. And that's a really good result for El Salvador. Looking into this game, there were some question marks around some of the selections. And in the last episode, you guys can check that out on our YouTube channel, the reaction to the El Salvador game. But is Zach Steffen going to come into goal? Because Matt Turner, we know, has been really well, or has been really good in MLS. He was fantastic, probably the player of the tournament in the Gold Cup. But his build-up play, even in that El Salvador game, is not quite on the level of Zach Steffen.
Yeah, I think it's important that we see Zach Steffen come in at a time like this.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think not just Zach Steffen, we're going to need John Brooks back too. Greg Berhalter.
That's a big one.
Greg Berhalter mentioned that John Brooks was out for the El Salvador game, just per minutes reasons, just to give him a break before a busy maybe next couple 2 games. But I think having those two back at the helm is going to be a big ups for the team, just because of their energy, their presence, their distribution is going to go a long way towards relieving the stress off the midfield, help us click better and get the ball up the field, just like we couldn't do against El Salvador.
And not to mention the return of Christian Pulisic, possibly. Obviously, he didn't travel with the team to El Salvador, still recovering from coronavirus, and he's the X factor. And the reality is, with Christian Pulisic in this team, the U.S. are just a much more dangerous opposition, being that he can, at any given moment, create something out of nothing and change a game in a second.
That being said, I mean, with Christian coming back, I think it's going to be a lot to play into our favor now, because we kind of struggled, as we mentioned in our last show, with kind of 3 creative players. Do you think it's plays in our benefit to have kind of a more central figurehead in Christian to play as the puppet master rather than have 3 more creative players at once?
I mean, I think it does. And it also probably allows Gio Reyna to have more space for Brendan Aronson or Conrad, whoever's going to be that other winger on the other side. And it's going to create more opportunities for Josh Sargent, because a lot of the guys in that midfield, I mean, whoever the number 6 for Canada is going to be in this game or in their back line, they're going to have their hands full, and all their focus is going to be placed on Christian Pulisic. And I like the formation that Greg used in the last one. There was a little bit of a question mark that he went to in that game, but the 4-2-3-1, I think with Christian playing as the number 10, we've seen Christian play as the number 10. That's how we saw him play in the previous World Cup qualifiers a couple of years ago when he was our best player. Obviously, we didn't qualify. However, you can't deny that the kid did his part, and he was still only 17, 18 years old at the time. So I think we do see the return of Christian Pulisic, and I want to see him in that number 10 role. We know what he can do out wide. We know what he can do in the center. The question is he going to be fit enough? Obviously, he's able to be around the team and stuff, but with COVID and everything like that, you never know just how much the sickness affected him. And I think it's probably a lot more likely that we see him come off the bench in this game as opposed to playing a full 90 minutes, just being that you don't want to push it too hard, or maybe he gets, the COVID respikes and he has a worse reaction, gets more sick, or even like pulls up with an injury here and there.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I don't know if he's going to burst right into the team, and it's also questionable, if Zach Steffen's going to burst straight into the team as well, or if he's even going to make an appearance in this stage of games. But I think that being said, without Christian, I could see Greg Berhalter switching back to a 4-3-3, potentially bringing back Sebastian Lletget into the starting lineup, just because our midfield just did not click as he expected to against El Salvador. So given the availability of Christian, do you think bringing in Sebastian Lletget may not be the most admirable of switches, but do you think that could benefit us rather than have the three kind of floating creative players?
I think it could. Obviously, he's got a little bit of flair and creativity to his game. He's a very versatile player. We make fun of him for being Greg's favorite, but at the end of the day, he's a Swiss Army knife for this team. And maybe he could add just a little bit of stability, that outlet pass. Do I think he's going to be the difference between winning a game or, the final goal, winning a game and maybe drawing a game? No, I don't think he's going to be the difference, but he might allow the other players to play more freely and do what they want to do, just being that they know they have a solid set of, feet over in midfield. Maybe we bring in a Kellen Acosta. He came off the bench in the last game, and that might allow Weston McKennie to be freed up a little bit more to burst forward. But at the end of the day, I think that there's probably going to be some changes that are made. Maybe it's Conrad that falls out. I don't think he was the worst one up top at all. I think at times he was our brightest attacking player. We know what he can do in terms of taking on a defender and breaking down a back line. But, maybe they switch things up at top, give PFOC a chance, or even young Ricardo Pepi an opportunity. I don't think that's probably the move. PFOC's probably the more likely. But I think if Christian starts, Josh Sargent's going to start, because in the last episode, we talked about that Christian and Josh do have a really good relationship. They're able to interchange with each other, and they understand each other's movement and how to create space for one another, and where to play the ball, when to play the ball, how hard and how soft to play the ball to each other. So I think Greg's got a couple decisions on his hands, and I think a lot of it, like you said, has to come down to the fitness of Christian Pulisic and John Brooks. And let's not forget, we didn't have our most important attacker and our most important defender against El Salvador. Should we still have beaten them? Yes. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's a defining result whatsoever.
Yeah, and just kind of building off of that, I think our options in midfield kind of have been playing into our advantage, but also playing into kind of our downfall, because I think we have a great selection to choose from. But that being said, I think each player, whether you bring in Kellen Acosta, whether you bring in Sebastian Lletget, whether Christian Pulisic is that third player or whatnot, I think each player has something different to bring to the team. So maybe Kellen Acosta will be good to bring in for this game, but Sebastian Lletget for another. So I think that'll come with time, just figuring out what combinations of players works best against what kind of teams. Because fact of the matter is that the midfield did not look good against El Salvador, and something is going to have to change within that 3 or that 4, whatever Greg Berhalter decides to go with. So whether that's to bring in Kellen Acosta over Adams, I'm not sure if that'll be the most praised of switches, but who knows if it'll work out. Maybe bring in Lletget, like we mentioned, but something's going to change, and we got to see if that may be the best way moving forward against a more premier opponent such as Canada.
And maybe that does play into their hands a bit, because Canada is going to become much more at us in terms of when they have possession of the ball. We'll be able to counter press and win the ball up high up the field and try and hit them on the counterattack much more than we would have and were able to in that El Salvador game. Just a little bit of let's get into some quick little news before we get into, score predictions, player to watch, stuff like that. Joe Scaly, I just saw, had been recently named Borussia Mönchengladbach's Player of the Month. So another American killing it over there in Europe. It seems like we got a ton of depth at that right back because we do. I mean, just the list of names just keeps getting bigger and bigger in that role. And then shout out to Yunus Musa, who made his return from injury for Valencia this past weekend. So hopefully we'll have him back for the next set of qualifiers next month. But like I said, let's get into the match predictions. Ryan, who is your player to watch in this game?
That's a tough one because it's going to be up to, what kind of game we're up to that day. I really hope Serginho Dest has a better game, but I could see Brendan Aronson being a very pivotal figure in our attack if Christian Pulisic doesn't come back. So if our midfield situation is sorted out and Brendan Aronson gets the freedom to kind of roam and pull his strings like he does, I think he could be very, very influential, help us out, get the attack rolling a bit better than it did in our first game.
Do you think that maybe going up against the likes of Alphonso Davies over on that left side for Canada, maybe we move Serginho Dest over to the right side? Obviously, DeAndre Yedlin, who got the start in the last match, both of them are very attacking right backs. And Alphonso Davies, obviously, we know, very attacking left back himself. And even at times he plays left midfield for them. But at times, he's going to be exposed when we try and hit them on the counterattack. Maybe we throw a Serginho Dest over there to try and expose them when Canada gets caught up the field, when Alphonso Davies is caught up high up the pitch, to try and slit him in behind and try and whip him some crosses and do what he does creativity-wise? Or do you think, being that both him and Yedlin are fast and, attacking-minded fullbacks, that it really doesn't have much of an impact?
Yeah, and that's it's one thing to think about how we could take advantage of that, but they're also thinking the same of us. So I think it's going to be whoever plays against Alphonso Davies, it's going to be a real test because if it's Serginho Dest is going to want to get high up the field too, and he's going to have to look over his shoulder to see where one of the fastest players in the Bundesliga is. It's Alphonso Davies is not a guy that you want to let sneak by. So whoever is playing up against him on his side, it may come down to just kind of a poker face, like who's gonna take that space and leave some room in behind, because both of us can damage each other, both Canada and the United States, from that position. So that's going to be a key area of the field, that battle right there.
And I'm kind of, for my impact player, I'm going kind of in a similar route. I'm going with Giovanni Reyna. And we know he usually plays that right side of the attacking three for this U.S. national team. And he's going to be paired up right up against that same guy we were just talking about, Alphonso Davies, two of the best young players in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund. I think that's going to be a battle that could really decide the outcome of this game. Alphonso Davies is Canada's best player, and Gio Reyna is one of our most important. And probably you could even say he's top three. What would you say? In terms of those, and obviously he was a little bit quiet in the last game, something we're not accustomed to seeing. So he's going to have to respond after not having his best game, and I think he will. So I expect Gio to really step it up in this game. And then obviously the wild card is whether or not, the Golden Boy is going to play in this one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to Christian Pulisic. That being said, what are you thinking score-wise? What are we going to do? What are we going to take?
You know what? I think it's going to be 3-1 to the U.S. I really think that this team's going to rebound. I think Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, I think they're going to really step it up. And then I could definitely see Christian Pulisic coming on in the, maybe around the 60th, 65th minute, and really just putting the nail in the coffin and finishing off this game against Canada. We know that they're going to come at us, and I think maybe they get one in past our defense. But yeah, I'm going a 3-1 win for the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I'm going to actually go with a 2-1 win. I'm on similar terms. I think Canada's a good side. They may get one past us, but I think this is going to be the game where we're really going to persevere and get the job done. So I could see Brendan Aronson getting on the score sheet. I could also see Weston McKennie. He's going to want to have a good game after kind of getting ran over against El Salvador. So I could see him slotting away a header maybe. But yeah, I really want to see a big game from Weston McKennie in the midfield. and Brendan Aronson. I could see it being 2-1 to the USMNT. We're going to need those 3 points, man.
A win's a win, man. A win is a win. And that is exactly what the U.S. men's national team will be looking for against Canada this Sunday. Stay tuned for all the Stars and Strikes content. A little bit of a tongue twister there for some reason. But nonetheless, we might have some IG live shows coming for you guys. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you guys get your podcasts. Stay tuned. Follow us on social media for all the latest updates around the U.S. men's national team. We'll see you guys next time. For Ryan Deeb, I'm Chaz Messman. See you soon.
See you guys.
There we go. That was good.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was good. Good 2 quick little episodes right there. I'm going to try to get those edited before I leave. At least I'll try to get the El Salvador one up because I said tonight in that one last night. So it's a bit timely.
I got you. You're
Cool.
good. Do what you got to do, brother.